This is the brand new Lenovo Slim 7X, and this is the fourth Snapdragon X Elite laptop that I've reviewed so far. And out of all of them, at least out of all the clamshells, this one is the best looking. I mean, like, look at this, right off the bat, you have a beautiful royal blue color to the laptop. I love when manufacturers add some color to their products. Not only does it differentiate them from the competition, it's nice to see, Sometimes the colors are quirky and ridiculous. Other times they just look like this. And I think this just gives this product a very nice, classy look. Even when you move it around and the light reflects off the Lenovo logo, it lightens up, and I think that's pretty cool. The overall product is very well made. It's an aluminum chassis. It feels very comfortable to hold in the hands because the edges are nice and smooth. Super light, like under 3 pounds. So like you chuck this in your bag, it's not gonna feel heavy. A great option for travel or school. Port lineup, not the best though. Like for example, you only have 2 USB 4.0 ports on the left-hand side. Of course, you cannot hook up an external GPU to this one. And then of course you have another USB 4.0 port on the right. Power button, then of course you have your webcam switch. The power button placement is not the best. I know Lenovo tends to do this with some of their laptops. The problem I find with it, and again, I'm nitpicking here, is every time you pick up the laptop like this and then you move it and you place it down, you accidentally turn off the display. Now, the only drawback to having a dark blue laptop is the fingerprints, and they do pick up quite easily. Now, personally, I don't care, but I know some people are pretty particular about it, so just wanted to point that out. Opening it up, you continue that blue theme on the deck of the keyboard. You have these dark black keys, and of course you have white backlighting, so it obviously pops. Lenovo being Lenovo, you have those U-shaped keys, 1.5 millimeters of travel distance, very clicky, very satisfying to type on, very reminiscent of the ThinkPad X1. You have your Copilot key here, which is pretty much standard on all of these laptops now. They removed the right control key so you can instantly access it. I haven't spent a lot of time on the Copilot features just because the good stuff like recall has been delayed, and the Copilot functionality of this laptop is pretty much identical to Copilot on the web. So there's like nothing really cool there. But one of the cool things is the Windows Studio effects. It's a little bit better than the previous generation. So you have that like portrait blur, you have that auto reframing. You can of course have the eye feature, which we used to see on NVIDIA GPUs, where if you're looking away, it still makes your eyes look directly in the camera. And the actual touchpad is big too. Like this is a pretty big glass touchpad. It's very accurate to use. The click of it though doesn't feel premium, if that makes any sense. Like there's a little bit of a delay, like I'm finding myself constantly having to push down quite hard, but overall it's a decent touchpad. But the display itself technically doesn't go flat 180 degrees. Even though this is a Yoga, this is as far back as it will go. The hinge is not too bad. Like there's a little bit of wobble, but it's not terrible. Like some HP laptops, for example, will just go back and forth, which is pretty crazy, but this goes fairly far down. And then you have this beautiful, gorgeous OLED display. And this display is QHD+. It's 90 Hertz. It has a wonderful color gamut, good color accuracy, and pretty good screen brightness. Like if you're buying this for watching content or doing any sort of creative work, you're absolutely going to love this display. Now, I do wish it was 120 Hertz. 90 Hertz is good, happy medium, but 120 Hertz I feel like is the sweet spot. Now there's no fingerprint scanner on the laptop, but you do have Windows Hello facial recognition if you want to use biometrics. And now you're looking at the 1080p webcam. So again, I'm just using natural light. There's a lot of natural light, so it probably looks really good, but you guys let me know how it looks, and more importantly, how do the microphones sound? The performance on this is very interesting because it is using the 78 variant of the Snapdragon X Elite, which means it doesn't have the dual core boost. And it does make a difference sometimes, but because this is using a 65-watt charger, the TDP is a little bit higher than the HP OmniBook that I did review, while also getting better performance. It's not beating out the VivoBook that I recently reviewed. The TDP on that is even higher than this, and that's also using the same variant of the CPU, but it doesn't have that dual core boost, which the Surface Pro does. And in some situations, you will notice that difference. Now, if you're buying this for Photoshop, it runs absolutely great. If you're buying this for any sort of video editing, DaVinci Resolve, for example, has been optimized for ARM, even though technically it's still in beta. It didn't perform the best, but I feel like if you're buying this laptop, you're mostly using it to like browse the web, Microsoft Office, stuff like that. Like the heavy workloads need more time. Like the software still needs to be ironed out. Now, one thing I can confidently report between all of these laptops, like all the Snapdragon X Elite, is the idle time. It's incredible. Like it's MacBook good. You know, like you could literally close the display, let it go to sleep, come back to it 7 days later, and you'll lose like, I don't know, 7%, 10%. Like it's incredible. The battery life on this so far has been really good. It's the best battery life I've tested so far out of the 4 X Elite laptops I've reviewed. If you're doing like a rundown test over 16 hours, more realistic battery life would be like a full day, 7 to 8 hours of use before needing to charge. This is assuming you're mostly using ARM apps. The moment you transition over to x86, the battery life is obviously going to take a hit. This is not a gaming laptop. Obviously, a couple of games will work, but most of them just won't, either because the anti-cheat won't let it, the game's not optimized for it, or because the game's in x86, you're just going to get a lot of dropped frames. Also, another thing I noticed between all of these Snapdragon laptops, except for the VivoBook, is that fan noise is low. 65-watt chargers and below, the fan noise never gets past 42 or 44 decibels. Like you can generally have a very quiet experience using this product all the time, and I love to see that. Now, the internals are very well cooled by 2 fans and 2 copper heat pipes. You do have a swappable NVMe SSD. The read and write speeds are pretty good. Wi-Fi card is soldered onto the motherboard, but it is Wi-Fi 7. And of course, at the bottom over here, you have a big 70-watt-hour battery. I've only reviewed 2 14-inch Snapdragon laptops, this one and the HP OmniBook. The OmniBook is the exact same price, but has an inferior display, a lower refresh rate, lower performance, and not the fastest NVMe SSD. This really doesn't sacrifice any of those things. If you live in a web browser, if you use Office, and you mostly use ARM, you're gonna love this thing. Battery life, idle time is going to be incredible. But keep in mind, you will feel like a bit of a beta tester at the moment because there's still a lot of things that don't work. Google Drive won't work at the moment. You have applications that won't load on the ARM architecture. If it's a heavier app, it might run a little bit too slow. So if you don't mind putting up with those hiccups, then you're gonna love it. But if you need those apps right away, you might wanna give this platform a bit more time to expand. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.